Dolphins fan. Let's go!
All right, huddle up. We're gonna crank these engines up on one. All right? Wait, 80. Set. Drivers, start your engines.
This is the Finish Line.
I coached a great offensive lineman in the past. Larry Little, Dwight Stevenson, Jim Langer, all Hall of Famers, and Richmond Webb belongs to that same group.
Here are your hosts, legendary Miami Dolphins left tackle Richmond Webb, Reason, and Mr. Ballgame.
What is good, Fin Nation? What's good? It's your boy Reason, and we are back here for another episode of the Finish Line. As always, I'm joined by my co-host, the legendary Richmond Webb, the Triple OG, Mr. Ballgame. And guys, it's becoming a routine. Now, 2 weeks in a row, we are not celebrating a victory when we open the show. How are you gentlemen feeling? I know it's just a disaster wherever you look right now. I mean, you got Javon Holland basically calling out fans right now. You got people who don't know the nuances of the quarterback position or the nuances of the game, and they're out here doing film studies and kind of trying to just trash the kid. Everyone's making it all about the quarterback right now. It's a bloodbath between Dolphin fans. You would think this team is 5-8 and not 8-5. But how are you feeling, gentlemen? You letting any of that negativity set in or what?
No, I don't never let it set in. Twitter, I've learned just from being on social media and Twitter is that, when things are going good, everybody's happy. But when you hit a little stumbling block, a lot of people, they can't handle it. And it's a long season. And I just know from playing the game and it doesn't always have to be at the highest level, but college, pro, high school, you can be in a rhythm. You can really be rolling. But, sometimes your defense is going to play well. Sometimes your offense is just, you can't always just say, calculate, this is the way it's going to go, this and that. And I think, again, our offense struggled, didn't make plays when we should have. And I saw people criticizing the defense, but if we get something going consistently, with a sustainable drives, this and that definitely helps the defensive numbers. But people just look at the end of the game, the stats, this and that, and sometimes you got to kind of push back, take a deep breath, and just say, okay, let's really see what's going on. But I'm good. I'm still riding with the Dolphins. Hey, you got to take the good with the bad. I think we all thought that we would come out with a W with this game, but we didn't. But it ain't the end of the world. We're still in the playoffs. And I think the other thing is we were playing so well so early that a lot of people, I think the goal should be to make the playoffs, but I think we were playing so well so early that we kind of got spoiled and said, hey, maybe we can actually win the division, which was, we were right there attainable. And now I think a lot of people say, okay, if we don't win the division, it's like a big letdown, but it's not necessarily true. And the season is not over. And I'm not saying we're not going to do it, but the main goal should be to make the playoffs. I think if we make the playoffs, I think that would be a huge accomplishment for a first-year coach coming in. It's definitely different than starting out 0-7 or 1-7, this and that. We're in a much better position than we have been the past few years. So sometimes you just got to take a step back and relax, take a deep breath, and just say, hey, we got hit in the mouth a couple times, but hey, we're going to be all right. We're going to bounce back. But other than that, I'm good. I know my man, Mr. Ballgame, is good. Hopefully he shares some news with the fans, but if he chooses not to, that's his choice. But how you doing, Mr. Ballgame?
You know, hey, good evening. Good evening, my brothers. All things considered, man, I'm actually in a pretty good space. You know, I entered this community 3 years ago, roughly. Whenever, like 3 years ago,
October 2019, basically.
Yeah, 2019. With a goal of trying to educate and bring people in their football knowledge to a different level in regards to how they can see the game differently, so that they're not so critical of the fact that these are players who are human beings that make mistakes. And over this journey, you know, for me, it still bothers me to some degree that people, even in the teams out there giving you, you know what I'm saying, their maximum effort and things don't go the way we all want it to go, you know, the first thing that people want to do is bash the squad and talk down and, you know what I'm saying, take personal shots and call people trash and all these things, when realistically, as far as I know, the vast majority of the people that are willing to be out here calling these players trash and stuff have never athletically or could have never physically do any of the things that we're doing. And I think it's kind of bush league, you know what I'm saying, when you resort to that type of tactic to express your frustration. I mean, these are
especially after being real quiet when Tua was out here bailing our D out on the road. But continue on, Mr. Ballgame.
Yeah, and you know, for me, it's just hard to process that week in and week out, because that entire roller coaster of, you know, you get tied into the game. You want your squad to do, you know, great things and whatnot. But at the end of the day, for me as a coach, as a coach on this side looking at it, I've seen these things happen before. I've seen situations where you go into, you get into a groove and teams, you know what I'm saying, you just motor through teams and your offense looks amazing and the defense plays up in supportive role and whatnot. And then you hit, but unfortunately, there are these times where coaches get, you know what I'm saying, get complacent and you don't switch up much, and then people get film on you. And the one thing about the NFL, that college and NFL that's 100% ironclad, is that people watch tape and they figure out what you do well, and they're going to scheme, even if they don't athletically even have the players that you would think are capable of doing. The scheme is going to, they're going to scheme against what you do well, and they're going to frustrate you to a point and try to take those things away. And that's what I saw Sunday, watching it with my new grandbaby, by the way, y'all. So that's what Richard was talking about. She's here. Avery is here. You know what I'm saying? She was born on Friday, 6 pounds, 9 ounces. Beautiful baby girl, born to my daughter. And yeah. We watched Sunday's game with her right here on my chest.
A lot of great start, huh?
Well, you know what? For me,
one time for Avery in ball game.
It balanced me out, though. You know what I mean? Because then
you go, huh?
Yeah.
Get used to the pain early. Attaboy.
It helped put them things in perspective for me, right? And it brought me back to, you know, completely realizing that situations don't always happen exactly the way we want them all the time. But to be 8-5 as opposed to, like you said, 5-8, I think that We got a chance to win 3 out of the next 4, improve upon last year. And the goal every year for a team striving to win a Super Bowl is to get better every year. I take into consideration that this is a new offense. I take into consideration that we've had a lot of injuries and a lot of key positions. But to have 8 wins right now and still be and be in an extended season, right, with a whole nother game, and have the potential to still be able to finish maybe with 11 or 12 wins, that's progress for me, right? So I'm not looking and nitpicking the small things that I know can be fixed if they just make some subtle adjustments. But to get into this whole process of talking down on players and calling players trash, and when the player's playing perfect, you love them to death, and then when they have a bad game or two, now you want to talk crazy about them. Yeah, I'm so over that, man. Fickle beyond belief, man. And it's just that's the part of the process that eats at me. And
I can't stand it, eh? People be flip flopping more than a pair of sandals on a beach, and crazy, I can't put up with that, dude. I really can't. You know what I gotta say though? What I just realized, your granddaughter, December 9th, right?
Yes,
that's my mother's birthday.
Nice. There we go.
My mother had just turned 68, and then today, my daughter turned 2.
There we go.
So, and then on the weekend, Dougley had his daughter turned 2, I believe, as well.
Hey, my son Kevin Jr., his birthday is today. He turned 27 today.
Okay.
What? So hold on. Your granddaughter has the same birthday as my mom, and then your son has the
same birthday as your daughter.
As my daughter. That's crazy, bro.
Yeah,
that is crazy.
Hey, I call it destiny, bro.
What are you adding to this equation, Richmond? What's going on? What's your other than sipping from a pink cup casually while ball game?
I just got some pom-poms. I'm worthless, brother. I ain't got nothing to add to it. That's it.
Oh, there you go. And William says his daughter's birthday is tomorrow. So there you go.
There we go.
That's crazy, bro. Destiny ball game.
Yeah,
crazy.
We were meant to meet, man. We were meant to share in all of this together, man. And I'm here for the ride, man. I'm not gonna let these clowns out here in the community, man, take me off the mission, man. The mission is always to educate and to unite this fan base. And however they feel about it, they can take shots how they want. At some point, I have faith in believing that this thing is going to manifest itself into something that no one is going to be able to deny. And I'd rather be on the side of staying positive and being able to say, you know what, I supported it even when it was falling a little bit. We got behind it and supported it to the best of our ability, and now look where it is. As opposed to saying, you know what, man, I ain't had nothing to do with that, and everybody remember that I was a jackass that was talking crazy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I ain't got time for that.
So let's start off. Let's go over the Chargers game a little bit here. So Chargers win 23-17 in primetime. Tua 10 of 28, 145 and a touchdown. Herbert 39 of 51 for 367 and a touchdown. If you watched my recap show when we brought out the next gen stats, of those 51 attempts, about 35 of them came from either behind the line of scrimmage or in front of the sticks. So he really wasn't pushing the football when you look at a guy who threw the ball 51 times. But before we get into everything, guys, BetOnline remains your number one source for all sports betting needs this season. It's also one of the sponsors of the Finish Line, brought to you by the Believe Network. You'll always find the latest odds, team matchup info, player news, and game trends at BetOnline. And as your continued source for all sports wagering information, BetOnline features live betting, free contests, and giveaways all season long. Always the fastest and easiest way to bet all your favorite sports and events, whether that's NFL, NBA, NHL, MMA, tennis, boxing, or even golf. Head to betonline.ag to join and receive your 50% welcome bonus with your first deposit. Make sure to use promo code BELIEVE, BLEAV, to receive your rewards. BetOnline, where the game starts. So let's start off with the obvious here, boys. Tua Tagovailoa and his performance. Now, what people might not realize is I send you guys, I don't just send it to Martin after I chop up the all 22 of Tua. I've been sending it to, I send it to you guys.
Right.
Ball game, because you've been doing the all shows with us, but you've been busy lately. And Richmond, I mean, just because, for Pass Pro. But so you guys, I've seen every Tua drop back while I've been sending them to you. Me and Martin agreed with this. I want to get your guys' thoughts. Are we crazy for saying that Tua was much better than he was in San Francisco. And Martin used this analogy, boy. He said in the terms of stats can get inflated in the fourth quarter when you're padding and someone's in prevent. This was the opposite in terms of stats were inflated and didn't tell the whole story. And that's what he kind of said. He said if you would have looked at this game with Tua's accuracy, this would have looked like the game where he put up the 295 yards that he did against San Fran, and San Fran would have looked like the game where he put up 145 yards, right?
Right.
So what were you guys' overall thoughts? Was it better than his performance in San Fran? Because we believe it was. And are we lunatics for continuing to say that, you saw Khalil Mack, they ran that fake toss. He didn't bite on the fake toss, boys. Why? When you don't set up the run game, why are they going to bite on a fake toss? We're really, really running an offense. Last year we ran the RPO with the O at the R. Now we're running a West Coast with a lot of motion and a lot of play action. But when you don't run the football, you stop the clock on yourself, and you're detrimental to setting up. We're an offense that sets up false keys, and we got to get guys shifting and moving off their landmarks. And you're not doing that when you're not running the football in this offense. Right. Are we nuts for saying that you are seeing Tua struggling, but his struggles are being heightened by a lack of a run game and McDaniel lack of adjustment in the long run? He's still sticking to the long developing route in the middle of the field. What are your thoughts?
Well, I looked very intently at the R22, and for the largest things that stood out to me happened to actually be associated with the pass receivers. The routes, the balls were there. The balls were there where they were supposed to be. They just weren't caught, to be honest with you. I mean, there were a lot of drop passes, and there were a lot of plays where he did what he was supposed to do. However, the execution just wasn't there. And I think a lot of that has to do with, and I don't generally do this, but the Chargers did an amazing job of challenging us at the line of scrimmage, something that a lot of other teams really didn't do. The 49ers did it differently. Right, they ran to spots in the intermediate areas of the field and clogged up those spaces, so there wasn't enough room for us to navigate through it. So they did it zone based. The Chargers really, really manned up and said, "You know what? We gonna, if you beat us, you beat us, but we're gonna test to see if y'all want to be touched." And I think what they did, unfortunately, shows a little bit of a weakness for us in terms of our guys don't like to be touched, and we got so comfortable with teams backing off us, also having to find soft spots and zones. But they were right in the pocket, and what we call in the DB world, we call it they were in phase. They stayed in phase with our guys, and even when the guys were running away from them, they were still close enough to be able to influence them enough that when they were sticking their hands out to go and catch passes, they were short arming them. Right, there was a lot of alligators like trying to pull it in quick so that they could just get down and avoid hits or whatnot, or avoid getting like massively tackled and stuff. And that in itself, if you don't extend enough and get your hands out in front of you to catch the ball, you're not gonna have a clean catch. And I saw a lot of that. Waddle dropped a couple of those. Tyreek dropped a couple of those. And it was all influenced by the physicality that they were playing. And some of when guys aren't catching those passes, you can't turn and look to the refs to ask for the holding penalty. We got one on Samuels, right? And Davis, that other dude, 43,
Mike Davis,
he was doing a lot. But in order to make the guy stop doing it, you got to make the catches, and you got to frustrate him because he played arguably their scheme to the best of his abilities, and he won on a couple of, other than the deep ball where he got crossed up on his feet and Tyreek took it in for the touchdown. That in itself changed the complexion of how things looked for me. McDaniel's not making any adjustments and thinking that everyone will still continue to back off and give you the feel is where I think he lacked his adjustments. And, the 49ers had just given teams the blueprint on how you could do it through zone. It wasn't hard. I wouldn't have at any point thought to myself that some team was going to try to challenge you with man coverage, especially when you had to look at what they had going on in terms of injuries. So the easiest thing with a defensive coordinator to teach guys to do, if you down bodies, is just play press and hold on. If you get beat, you get beat. There ain't got nothing to worry about at this point. But I gotta teach you how to work and sync if I'm gonna ask you to do zones. You know what I mean? Which is gonna take more time. So they just went with what's the easiest route to take, and they won, which is crazy to me because we definitely have the better athletes in terms of foot speed and agility and things of that nature. But when you got guys leaning on you and putting your hands on you and rerouting you and not letting you get clean releases off the line of scrimmage, that affects the timing of all the plays. So a lot of those balls that Tua was throwing in those windows, guys was, you know what I'm saying, unfortunately, two steps late. Or if they got there, they were putting their hands up, but they were short arming it, you know what I mean? Because the guy was right on them when they was trying to catch it, and you know all that stuff affects the timing. So I said all that to say it really didn't look as bad to me as I thought it was initially when watching the game live, and then you get a chance to go back and look at all that stuff. I was like, okay. So no, you're not crazy.
Your thoughts, Richmond? Oh, go ahead. Ballgame had a point that you said, but Ballgame, go ahead. Finish
but
it.
People have to be able to objectively see that, and a lot of people won't necessarily go back. They're only going to base it off of what they saw on Sunday night, and then have all this stuff to say. But when you get an opportunity to go back and truly look at it with an with non-biased eyes and say, you know what did the Chargers do that was different? Then you see it unfold, and they played to the best of the ability they had with the guys that were available to them, and they changed the landscape of things, and they did something that we haven't seen all year. Nobody's really ever done that to us in terms of physically trying to reroute us at the line of scrimmage with man press coverage, and it shocked our guys. Unfortunately, I don't think another team will be able to do it that way because they'll make the adjustments, I believe. But for the first time, somebody challenged us, and we didn't, we just didn't do well with it. So,
Richmond, your thoughts?
Yeah, I kind of agree with Ballgame, but I think the thing is, you go back and look at it. I think he went through his progressions. I think he hit the right people. I think the biggest difference was he was way more accurate against the Chargers than he was against the 49ers. So whatever issues he had where, his timing was off or his accuracy was off, I thought he corrected that. But when you don't catch the football, it's kind of a domino effect. So I don't just put the blame on Tua because it's an offensive unit. So if the offensive unit didn't work together, if everybody don't do their part, whether it's the offensive line, the receivers, or whatever, it's going to normally reflect. And I think the thing is, a lot of time when it doesn't happen, the quarterback sometimes, he gets a lot of the reward, but he gets a lot of the blame too. But I don't look at it that way because I know it takes a group of 11 guys coming together, going out there, execute, where it's more important on offense than defense. A lot of times a guy can miss an assignment on defense and everybody's still successful, but that's not necessarily the case on offense. So the thing is like Ballgame said, I think they played physical. We didn't have the typical separation we had. A lot of times when the receivers were running in the routes and stuff like that. And so they did a much better job of challenges and this and that. But I don't think he played bad. I just think that everything's get magnified when the passes don't get caught. You can't convert the third down. We never got in the rhythm and to lose like 23-17. That was a winnable game for us. I think that was what was frustrating. We didn't have to play our best game, but we were still in position really until they kicked their last field goal, a touchdown. We still had an opportunity to go down and win that football game. But no, it wasn't just a horrible performance by Tua by any means. That's not what I saw. If you watch the film and be objective and really just sit back and look at it, you can't just pick out one person and say, okay, this is the reason we lost. So no, right. I agree with you. Yeah.
So we've talked about it before, but we didn't think we'd see it again as bad. Last week against San Fran, they ran the ball 8 times. This week against the Chargers, if we take out Tagovailoa's 3 rushing attempts, they were a bit better. They ran the ball 16 times. They doubled it up. But if you also take out Tua's rushing attempts, they only have about like 64 yards. What were you guys' overall thoughts on, again, a lack of a commitment to the run game, and also just McDaniel's lack of adjustments in terms of, it was clearly evident the middle of the field was getting clogged before we went live here. Ballgame brought up what he saw from Kenneth Murray. Basically what they were doing was they were overhanging the safeties and dropping, and sometimes they'd overhang the safeties real tight, so it looked like they're going to undercut a route if you're going to throw like a dig over the middle. And then they'd have man coverage with, they'd be right on the hip. So then they'd throw a linebacker or help underneath usually too. Lack of adjustments because you saw tons of time, and Tua has to fall in because there were times where Tua could have taken the check down and he didn't. But like I brought up to, Martin, and I said to EM Dolphin fan privately, is, he's a system quarterback. So, you gotta, we don't have the playbook in front of us, but, it's pretty strong to assume that, Tyreek and Jaelan Waddle are either the number 1 and 2 progression on every concept, or one of the two guys is the first progression on pretty much every concept. All right. They're either 1 and 2, or at least one of them is always 1 or 2 for every read. Right. And so, what I said was, okay, so you got to force him into quick hitches, quick speed outs, drags. You got to force him into those first or two progressions are in front of the sticks, if that's where we're rolling, right? And like I brought up the all slants play we talked about earlier, I think, what was it, before we went live or whatever, we didn't see that till like the fourth quarter, right? And I just wanted to get your guys' thoughts, because again, it just seemed like, we were getting, you'd have 4 routes out there. 3 of them are, the first 3 reads are all long developing routes way past the sticks. And then there's something short there. And like you saw, the Ingold one, that Ingold where he wanted to hit Ingold in the flat, he had 2 flat routes and he tried to hit Ingold off his back foot and it fell incomplete. He was looking at the deep routes before that. And then by the time he came to the check down, pressure was coming. Oh crap, I waited too late, off target. What are your guys' overall thoughts in terms of McDaniel and Tua not adjusting to taking what the defense was giving us, and also the run game not setting up essentially what this offense is built to do, right? Which is what? Eat over the middle of the field, right? Because boys, if you go to this short pass game too, gentlemen, right? It's what they were doing with Herbert. You're going to suck up all those defenders if you keep throwing in front of the sticks anyways, so then you can just go over top of them that's what the short passing game will do as an extension of the run game. So what were your guys' overall thoughts on the lack of a run game? And once again, a lack of adjustments when it was clear the game plan needed to be adjusted. And for the second week in a row, we had halftime to do it, and we didn't. Richmond, let's start with you.
Yeah, I think the thing that I saw is in Ballgame City. I can't remember if we were on air or before air, but teams study film. They figure out what your tendencies are, and at this point in the season, they got enough film on you to know, and it's broke down by percentages: 1st and 10, 2nd and 7, 3rd and long, 3rd and short. You have a percentage of, if they're in this formation, they're gonna do this 60% of the time. It's broke down. So the thing I think with us being such a heavy run pass option team, I think a lot of times you have to run the football in order to keep those guys honest. And that definitely helps. And it definitely helps, like you just said, Reason, if you can mix some short passes in there. And I think we've been so well at hitting guys on the deeper routes that we continue to do that. But if you shorten it up, you get the ball out quicker. If you run, that forces your linebackers and stuff. It keeps them honest where they're just saying, oh, they're not going to run it. We're going to just drop back. At least it forces them to step up on to create another space where you maybe can drop it in between the linebacker and the safeties and stuff like that. So, there go little mama. She told you where you messed up at ball game. You must have told her something wrong. You got to listen to it when she's telling you what the coverage is, brother. Hey, man. No, I mean, I think that's the biggest thing. And we got to be more consistent. And I think, kind of jumping the gun, I think it's supposed to snow this weekend up in Buffalo. So,
and we're getting bad weather where I am starting tomorrow, like sleet
in
sleet
Orlando,
and freezing.
No,
you in the
I'm
Bahamas?
not in Orlando right now.
Stop. Are you in the Bahamas? Jamaica?
Yeah, but we're supposed to get like freezing rain and sleet starting tomorrow, and then I can only imagine they're supposed to get 4 to 7 inches on Saturday.
Yeah, so it's gonna be a night game. I played this snow game up there. The footing is not as good, but I'm trying to remember, was it the last game or a playoff game? I can't remember, but we did win, but we lost like 44 to 34, whatever game that was. But I mean, we played them pretty well, but it was just, we was going against that K-Gun with Kelly, all those guys, but we were going back and forth. But I think it's definitely a winnable game, but I think we got to be able to mix it up a little bit better. We got to be able to use the run and keep them honest. Yeah.
What was our best game offensively? That Cleveland game. And why?
Yeah.
Because look at the balance we had offensively. You didn't know what was coming towards you, and whatever it was had you on your heels. I just want to get, Richmond, your thoughts quickly. I know you just saw the pass pro all 22, but Armstead isn't right. I mean, Van Noy beat him. You said, did y'all see that rep where Chris Rumpf just like threw him to the ground late in the game?
Right. Yeah, he's
like
not right.
Because I'll be on your opinion, Richmond. Did our pass pro really look that much better than what it did last week at certain times, situationally?
At certain times, it didn't. We had a couple of, to me, where they ran the stunts. We didn't pick them up as well. It was one where it looked like the center should have been working with the left guard, and the left guard recognized the guy coming out the secondary, and he left for the guy. I was like, whoa. And the center looked like he turned back
with Robert Jones.
Robert Jones.
Yeah, that was with Robert Jones. Yeah.
Man,
and and Jones the guard was late to pick up the man, right? Because he didn't know, if I release this guy, he's free, but I got to pick up the man, right?
Yeah.
Did you notice Connor, when he fans block, he doesn't keep his head on the swivel like he doesn't.
Well, normally this is the thing. If you and the left guard are working together, you keep a hand up. You can look over here, but you can't lose sight, because if that guy does blitz, the guard's got to come off, and then you put him in a bad position. So
still learning.
Yeah. It's just
It's one of them things. He's still learning.
Yeah.
I think for me, the run game does two things for this offense. First off,
and Armstead, and your thoughts on Armstead too.
Oh yeah, I got you. It establishes and sends a message to the other team that you are willing to be physical. First off,
yeah.
Secondly, it allows you the opportunity to manipulate the middle or the second level of the defense effectively once you establish it. Without those two elements, and a team not having to worry about that gives them that much more stuff that they can throw at you to disrupt your offense. And I think we asked this question last week in regards to having we discussed this last week, talking about having a Waddle and a Tyreek on the field together, and there's that situationally where, you know what I'm saying, he would tend more to want to pass to those guys and get pass happy. I think we're seeing some of that, unfortunately, just because having those two elements as a part of your offense is something that's like having a highly tuned car, but then without a shadow of a doubt, you just dropped in two humongous turbos that are going to push it completely over the top at any time. And you don't want to not have that at your disposal. But if the track can't take all of that, right, you have to make adjustments to the car in order for the car to run effectively down the track. Doesn't matter what the top end is, which is them actually being able to go out there and throw the ball around 50 times. If you can't effectively get that all going effectively towards scoring points, then it's an issue. And the running game is a part of that. That's the tires. Without the tires, the car is really just a showpiece. And unfortunately, I think we've seen him get away from foundationally having a solid car, which is going to be great tires to keep it, you know what I'm saying, keep the momentum of the game going, and then you can hit the gas quarter track with your wide receivers to take the top off and finish the game and, you know, win the race. And he's got to find the balance, man. That's why I talked last week about the fact that there's got to be someone telling Mike, listen, hey, coach, let's just run the ball. Because the weather is going to dictate those terms to you this week, for sure. And if they don't lean on some semblance of a run game this week, it's going to get ugly real quick because they are accustomed to playing in bad weather. We're not. I don't think the Bills have a scary run game, but the problem is that you're going into their backyard to play in their conditions, and they've proven that they don't have to have a really good run game to beat you. You see what I'm saying? We have to be at our best in all phases of what we do well. And if we don't establish the run game just to keep them honest, then they get the tee off again on this offensive line and Tua. And I think they're probably going to wind up the elements will take away their ability to be really, really aggressive in man coverage just because of the fact that cornerbacks also suffer in their ability to be able to plant and get, you know what I'm saying, and get into the chest cavity of the wide receivers. But I think overall, it's their game. You know what I mean? They don't, you know, guys that play in Buffalo are accustomed to playing in crappy weather. And, you know, if they didn't, they would put a dome on their stadium a long time ago. But as far as the adjustment, he's got to get better at adjustments. They got to have somebody checking Mike to get him back. You know what I'm saying? Hey, coach, all right, this not working. All right, let's run the ball a little bit. Let's get in between these tackles. Let's get in behind Hunt and Jones. See if we can move a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Get 3.5, 4 yards of carry. Because if you can consistently do that, then you automatically right off the bat change the mindset of the team that you're playing defensively, and they have to honor that. They have to keep those guys near the line of scrimmage to plug those holes. You know, because nobody wants to be getting ripped for 8, 9 yards of carry. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And then you can feed off of that, right? But you can't have one without the other, not in this offense. And as far as Armstead is concerned, it bothered me watching him get, you know what I'm saying, bullied in some instances by guys that are lesser pass rushing skill based than
what we've seen
previous
him
guys. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? And I just don't know. You know, with Vaughn being gone, me personally, I wouldn't play him this week.
I wouldn't have played him this week against the Chargers, and I would have tried to bring him up for the Bills game.
This one. Yeah, but
now they've done probably what you just said, but they're going to force him out there. I feel like, especially now that we've lost 2 in a row. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's a short week.
Yeah. Ugh. I just had to reschedule my tickets for Avatar because of the short week. My wife got tickets for Avatar on Saturday night. I had to move it for Saturday in the day. 3-hour movie, bro. Here we go. We're starting to see a trend here. We've seen it the last 2 weeks, definitely. Penalties, sacks, and key disruptive pressures on third downs. Now, the Dolphins this week were 3 for 11 on third down, right? So that by math tells you that they didn't convert 8 of them, right?
8 of them. Right.
Well, on 4 out of those 8, 2 penalties, 2 sacks.
Mm-hmm.
We're not even counting just disruptive pressures on the other 4. So half, literally 50% of the third downs they didn't convert could be attributed to a penalty by the offensive line or a sack given up.
So all things we can control.
Is this not an alarming trend, though, right now? Because I said to you guys before we went live, listen, if you want to give up 9 pressures a game, that's fantastic. Great number. But if 3 of those are sacks and 2 or 3 of those are disruptive pressures and all 5 or 6 of those come on third down, well, throw your 9 little number out the window because they're coming on downs that matter where we can't make up for them.
Facts.
What are your guys' overall thoughts? Because we're seeing it, false starts, holds, sacks, where just everything collapses, multiple guys collapsing on third down because we're pressed in a 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9. We can't hold our own. They pin their ears back, and we just can't stop them. What are your guys' thoughts on this? Quite frankly, over the last couple of weeks, alarming trend we're seeing of key situational 3rd downs going out the window from a pressure, a sack, or a penalty.
Well, I think you just said the key figure that stood out to me is 3rd and long. You're very limited in what you can do in 3rd and long. It's going to either be a screen or it's going to got to be a deep pass. And, if you're in 3rd and short, this and that, the defensive coordinator makes it hard on them because they say, okay, they possibly could run. They could throw a quick little out. It just depends on. But when it's 3rd or 7 plus, that's almost 100% pass unless it's screen. And you can't screen every time because the defense going to.
Or unless you're the Chargers.
Yeah, so and for the defense, 3rd and long, they pinning their ears back. They're coming. So that's where you're gonna get the games, this and that, because normally it's a longer developing route. So it plays in the defense hand. If we can run a stunt and break through there and disrupt it, that means the quarterback has to move so it plays in their hand. So the best thing we can do is limit the amount of 3rd and longs that we're in, and definitely penalties don't help because if you're 3rd and 7 or 8 and it's offside, now you're 3rd and 12 or 13, which is the percentages really go up that you're probably not going to make that 1st down and put yourself in a punt position. So for me, it's trying to find a way to stay out of 3rd and long. If we can do that, I think that will definitely help it. Penalties on 3rd down, that's not the time you want to create it because it just makes it hard to convert to keep the chains moving, this and that.
Yeah, I think overall for me, I think these as a young coach, the first thing you want to do is establish your players feeling like they can come to you and trust you and talk to you, and you want to build individual the relationships with them, right? And collectively, you want guys to feel like, no matter what, they can lean on you when they need you. But at some point, as the head coach, you also have to take into consideration that these guys still need to be pushed and they need to be led. And sometimes that's not always going to be nice. Sometimes you have to say the tough things in the meetings, and you don't necessarily point individual guys out, but you say things that get them to understand, like, this is not y'all. I expect more from you. We're better than this, and I'm damn if I'm not going to get it. So you change the tempo of practice. You do things. There's all these different things that you can do, and you can challenge guys. And if they don't step up, then they're not the guy you thought they were going to be anyway, and you make those adjustments later on. You know what I mean? They bring somebody in that can. But in the same sense, he's past that kumbaya era. The guys liking him for who he is and allowing practice to be different and whatnot. But these games matter now at this point. So the emphasis has to be put back on, listen, y'all professionals, this is the objective. This is how we're going to achieve this objective. Anybody got an issue with that? I got somebody right behind you that can fulfill this job. You know what I mean? And a lot of these conversations need to happen at this point. We're getting ready to go into playoff football, right?
Yeah.
We're definitely in an area right now where if you look at it and it started today, we're in the playoffs. And that matters because of the fact that everybody that's in there, that's already in now, they got experience. We don't have any. We got very limited experience, and we can't afford to put ourselves in a positions where we lose ground based on doing things on the field that we can control, like false starts and things of that nature. Shit, I mean, how difficult is it just to watch the ball getting snapped, especially as a guard? You feel me? Like tackles are a little different. Sometimes they're a little bit more offset, so they don't necessarily get to see it. They have to react off of the guy interior to them or the defensive guy coming. But for the most part, right, everything starts with the snap. And then on the other side, I saw them frustrated about things like passing roughing the passers. That the NFL competition committee come out today and said that Jaelan's
they got it wrong.
Yeah, they got it wrong. But like in the game, now you got this guy second guessing his moves. You see what I'm saying? So his is different. The ones on offense, though, Richmond will agree with me on this. Those are things that they can control, right? Especially considering they all know they've been playing the game long enough to know that nobody moves until the ball is snapped.
Yeah.
You feel me? But you shoot yourself in the foot, like you said. But for me, hell, first down, I only get 2 yards. 2nd and 8, I can throw. I know I got a play that'll get me 5. So now I'm at 3rd and 3. I take 3rd and 3, hold the water, tell the guys hold the water, calm down. We can get this 3rd and 3. We've consistently been able to do that. We got several money plays that can get us 3 yards, and we keep it moving. But yeah, it changes the complexion when I'm at 3rd and 3, and then somebody jumps. Now I'm at 3rd and 8. 8 yards is tough to get, especially in the NFL. So we just got to do a better. I think Mike has to do a better job of staging these plays, also to take into consideration that everything doesn't have to be chunk yardage. Because what I've seen consistently now, which was crazy to me, we had a lot of plays previously before that were short, intermediate, deep, check down. Everything as of late's been, like you said, Reason, everything's been
either deep or one check and one check down.
Deep and then a check down with nothing short. You know what I mean? Like, how are guys going to ever feel like there's this threat? Because the short stuff can kill you a lot of times more than the deep stuff because of the fact that I get another opportunity with another fresh, you know what I'm saying? And the goal is,
and the clock is working in my favor now. When I keep when the ball doesn't touch the ball in a short passing game, it kills you, man.
It kills you, yeah.
So, after their performance, I mean, again, Jaelan Phillips is dominant. Christian Wilkins dominant. Is it safe to say Christian Wilkins and Jaelan Phillips are carrying this defense right now?
Carrying, man. That's an understatement, bro. Them dudes playing lights out, and I am so proud of them because I remember people in the chats always talking about this dude Christian Wilkins, man. He sucks, man. He sucks. And now all of a sudden, now grown man out there, man, like legitimately.
Beast now. Jeez.
What? He's Aaron Donald Jr. You know what I mean? Like, he's so disruptive, bro. Like, legitimately,
someone said that to me this week. They're like, "Is Aaron Donald the only better defensive tackle than Christian Wilkins right now?"
It's gonna be. I'd argue it's damn tough to find another one because the amount of disruption that he is causing frees up so many other guys to be able to do one-on-ones. This dude is legitimately out there commanding double team and beating them. That's the crazy part. He is beating double team.
That, man.
Yeah, man. So, and then, Phillips, of course, it's always the game starts with him being like, almost there. And then he what he does, and I love this about the young boy, he is smart enough to look at the situation and say, you know what, I was a yard and a half off. Let me change my angle just a little bit. So now when I go at him, I'm running at that upfield shoulder, and he can't get away from me because I know that his lateral movement is not going to allow him to get away. You know what I mean? And it's beautiful watching him make those calculations on the field and his adjustments. And with Wilkins also on that side causing that interior pressure, it's a beautiful thing. But now Chubb got to get it together, man.
Especially after they paid him.
Yeah, you got to get it together. The young boy is really outperforming you right now. But get it together.
Your thoughts, Richmond?
Yeah, he's been playing like a man-child. I think Wilkins, he kind of reminds me of the player he was for Clemson that last year he was there. And, he was so dominant in that national championship game, but he's a guy that it doesn't matter whether it's, wherever it is on the field, when we need a big play made, a lot of times he's been so disruptive, whether it's even chasing guys down to the sideline, disrupting, the passing, forcing a guy to move out of the pocket, this and that. He's having a hell of a year. And then, like Ballgame said with Phillips, I couldn't believe they called that roughing the pass on him. It was so late, and I was like, I think it even surprised some of the Charger people.
He even put his hands
Did you boys? I gotta ask you this. Did you boys notice? Richmond might have noticed it because I'm sure his eyes go to the offensive line right away. Did you notice the false starts they weren't calling on the Chargers offensive line? That right tackle kept false starting.
Somebody mentioned that on Twitter because I was going. They said, "Hey, you see them?" I said, "Hold on, let me put an eye on it because I'll be talking."
Did you go back and look?
Twitter.
Yeah,
I
he
saw
getting
it.
quite-
Yeah, it was clear. Yeah, it was clear.
Like
I needed that guy when I was
chat,
playing.
Yeah, I know, eh? There were people in my chat coming out of the conspiracy woodwork and saying, "Yo, this thing is this rigged?" Like,
Yeah.
what?
It
And then
shouldn't
you
be that-
mentioned
it
that
shouldn't be
Jaelan
that
was late.
obvious.
Should be that obvious, yeah.
Shouldn't be
Like,
that
he didn't even
obvious.
fall on top of him, Jaelan Phillips. Like, there was nothing to even
That
throw.
was-
He even
That
put
was
his hands. Yeah,
And
half
was
out
Tyreek,
it.
was that a PI on that first throw to Tyreek, where the defender grabbed Tyreek's arm, the throw to start the game, the wheel route? There's an argument right now out there if that should have been called a PI because he grabbed Tyreek's arm.
The actions of the cornerback cannot interfere with the natural movement of the receiver in stride in his efforts to catch the ball. Right. So whenever you grab a guy's arm and that slows and it turns his body momentum, all of that is pass interference. That's the easiest stuff to call.
And they didn't call it.
They don't call it. Yeah.
Sorry, Richmond. You can make your point. Sorry, brother. I was just adding.
No, I was just agreeing. I mean, we kind of got sidetracked, but
yeah.
The thing I was because I felt bad for the young man, Phillips. I mean, after you make a hell of a play like that, and everybody, they were almost back in the huddle, and they like the flag comes out of nowhere, and I was like, man, what the hell?
And again, Richmond, well, not only that, boys, that was a third down play.
Third down, I was like,
we're finally gonna get good field position.
Right.
We're finally gonna start at like midfield. Here we go. We only got to make a couple plays, and we're in the red zone. And they took it away, and then they ended up punting from like their own 30 or 40 and pinned us back. And it was like, there's like you can feel the vibe and energy when nothing's going your way. They call it the football gods or whatever, but you can just feel when you're not. And then when you do get a break, right, the touchdown, they come back and add points on our defense. Like our defense has finally allows points. You know what I mean? And it's like, oh man. Anyways, I gotta ask the question, boys. It's time.
Yep.
So Xavien Howard, he's been targeted this year 61 times. He's allowed 41 receptions for 669 yards. He's averaging 6.3 yards per reception allowed in only 3 games this season. Week 10, week 7, and week 1 has he allowed less than 10 yards per reception. He's allowed 335 of those 669 are after the catch. He's allowed 6 touchdowns. He has 1 interception. He has 7 pass breakups. He has 6 penalties. And he's allowing an NFL passer rating when he's targeted right now, hold on to your chin straps, of 129.7. And as we know, a perfect passer rating is 154.3. So not that far off. I got to ask the question. This man's being paid the money. Ballgame. Byron's out. He's being asked to shoulder more responsibility, i.e. he's traveling more.
Right.
You made a good point. I wish I could have segued into this point. We're talking about X earlier when you talked about Phillips and Chubb. The young bull is out playing the old guy. Kid Erica, who is our best corner right now. Safe to say. How do you see this working out? I mean, is X washed up? And how do you see this working out now that McDaniel's come out and said, I'm not counting on Byron Jones coming back? You guys know what I've told you about Byron Jones. Say goodbye to him this offseason. We don't have draft capital to go draft a guy like Keely Ringo, Joey Porter Jr. in the second round. I'm all about. But what is X washed up, and what do you do?
Well, so let me attack this. First thing is that Boyer has to change up what you do best. Here's the problem, right? We became so accustomed to the ball hawking skill set of X that you forget some of the liability things that he still has in his game. Now, when I take away the fact that for the 2 seasons, Jones was on the opposite side of him, taking on the number 1 responsibility, and he was taking on the number 2 guy, right? That gave him a lot of freedom to freelance inside of the shell or whatever we were doing, and he could make plays and not have to worry about the number 1 option and, take the lesser of the 2 sometimes. And he stayed on one specific side of the field. but that still didn't overshadow for me some of the lack of his coverage skill that he had, like, because people forget he struggled mightily when we first got him, and he got to a point where he was, the guy, right? When you got somebody on the opposite side of him to handle the other responsibilities, and the guy is amazing at attacking the ball and being a ball hawk, but he still has deficiencies in some of his man coverage stuff. Like he was never really that great in his hips. Right? He was kind of stiff in the hips. And zone coverage for him was never ever a strength. So for me, it has to be something now in his older years that Josh Boyer does to take advantage of what he still does good in regards to playing the ball, having elite ball skills, and being a ball hawk, but force him, because you see Patrick Peterson had to do it. Pat Pete had to go, and instead of being a speed guy, he had to convert into being more of the cover four. Playing the zone. The off coverage. And get into really reading the a student of the game in terms of reading his opponent and studying the kid, and knowing what the receiver likes to do and doesn't like to do in certain situations. At 30 or 29, almost 30, he has to be that student of the game, because the athletic side of things, unfortunately, start to leave those guys at this point. So if he's going to be around, he's going to have to be one that he definitely has to convert from being a man guy to a zone guy. But that's all Boyer. Boyer can't be so selfish to think that he still has that type of ability on the field. And even then, having Jones was a luxury, right? We knew that. We said that all along, that you can look across the league and not find another team that had two shutdown corners. And we got spoiled on that. But now at this point, Kadu, God bless him, is here. He's definitely sorry about that, man. There's so much stuff going on with this baby. It's in my book bag. That he effectively, hell, in my opinion, he's the number one corner right now. X has regressed to a point that I can't rely on him. I don't know which version I'm going to get week in and week out. And when you have quarterbacks that are now willing to throw at him, when before they never would target him, that's a lot. That says a lot about where teams and where players think you are in terms of your career now. And unfortunately, we're watching before our eyes one of the best corners we've ever had, get old. That's really what it comes down to, because Mike Williams just came off an injury. He had time to sit, revitalize, get himself back up to speed, and Mike abused him. In my opinion, he abused him. He took him out to the shed and whooped him. And I was not expecting that. I know Mike, he's a big target, but at the same time, he physically dominated him. And you see him scared now. I've seen him play scared in a couple of games where he was not even willing to go up there and put his hands on receivers. He's backing off and he's bailing out early. And stuff of that nature. When I'm looking at the coverage and saying that's not what's supposed to be happening. But he has that freedom, and that's all because he know that this. I think he's aware that athletically he's just not there anymore. So it's an unfortunate thing, but boy, you just got to be better in the scheme. We got to start hiding stuff now. We got to start doing things a little bit different. Guys got to hold their water a little longer. You can't show the coverage too early, because we was doing a lot of that early on, and it worked for us. And now guys are bailing early, and you're showing the coverage before it's even time. Smart quarterbacks are going to pick that type of stuff up. So, is he washed? The cycle is on. You feel me? The cycle is definitely
the detergent's in. The detergent's in.
Yeah,
and the cycle's been selected.
Yeah, for sure.
What are your thoughts, Richmond? What are you thinking?
I've watched him. I know he's definitely hadn't had the year he's had the last couple of years. I don't know as much about the coverage stuff at Ballgame, but you can definitely see that teams are going at him more this year, and he hadn't been as effective as shutting people down or giving up the big plays, this and that. So I'm kind of glad Ballgame went ahead because that's
Can I
that's a
ask you
little
this?
bit about everything. You can ask me. I don't know if I got an answer.
Let me ask you this,
What you
because
got?
you played at the highest level.
I did.
Okay, he's played at the highest level at his position. Okay, you were a guy who you got injured a few times, but you never really got injured. You were, you know what I'm saying? Is this a result, Richmond, maybe of he's played the most football we've seen him play over these last 2 seasons in his whole career? Because he's never. How many times have we seen him be able to string together, even if he plays banged up, seasons where he's been playing this much of the season? We haven't been able to see him string this together his whole career. Exactly. Is this a result of that?
No, I now one thing I do that I think that the Ballgame hit the nail on the head is as you get older, your skill set does diminish. You do slow down, so you definitely got to really hone in on your film study and just be as technically sound as you can. That'll extend your career 2 or 3 years. Just being able to do that.
Yep.
But you gotta put the work in. You gotta really, study. You gotta study your opponent like ball games. You gotta know what moves he like, this and that. You gotta study. I mean, I had to do it. I mean, you gotta study. Okay, is he playing a wide 9? Is he playing a tight 7? Is he playing that? Does he like to do this? Is this foot back? Is that foot back? If it is back, does he like to try to slant across? You got to really, really hone in because it can extend your career 2 or 3 years, so you can still play at a high level, even though you can't do what you did when you was 26 or 27, but you can still be effective. So I definitely agree with that.
We talked about the weather, guys. And we talked about the run game. We talked a little bit about the weather earlier, but we talked a lot about the run game the past couple weeks. How key is this run game going to be to you guys if we do, in fact, see these 4 to 7 inches on Saturday to this team being successful? Like, where are you guys putting that on the priority list this weekend?
I think the run game, regardless of the weather, is key to this team getting back to where they were and being successful. I mean, especially this week, if it's bad weather, you definitely got to be able to run the football. I'm not saying you're not going to be able to throw the football, but it'll set up more opportunities for you to take a shot when they don't expect it. If you can run the football consistently, it'll slow the game up. I think that's what Buffalo is going to try to do to us. I think they're going to try to run the football. So if both teams are kind of effective doing it, it should be a lower scoring game. But I think you got to be able to run the football and being able to take shots, this and that, because if it's snow, I know they can kind of clear the field, but if it's snowing, this and that, you got to take into the account the footing, this and that, blah, blah, blah. And I think it's definitely important, but not only for this game. I think we got to get back to a more balanced attack.
I agree.
And then, like you said earlier, reason, I think we got to be able to make adjustments. And that's what some of the coaches are up in the press box for, and say, hey, what are you seeing? Talk to me. What do we need to do? This and that. I think, the coaching staff got to work together as teams. Say, hey, let's do this. This is how they're playing us. This is what I see. Let's do this instead of this. We're going to call it this way. We're going to shorten it up, and that way it'll open up things. But definitely, I think we got to be able to run the football, not only in Buffalo, but the rest of the way. We got to get back to a balanced attack, but it's definitely going to be important. This
you're not winning a playoff game or let alone going to the Super Bowl.
You got to be able to run the ball.
Got to be able to run the ball.
I agree. What are your thoughts, Ballgame, on how key the run game will be, especially if we do see the bad weather this Saturday?
Well, the thing for me that I always hear this argument from people, especially about the game that we beat them in Miami, was that, the elements and it was hot. Fact of the matter is, those 93 plays that they ran, we had our defense on the field for those 93 plays. So all the players are affected by the elements.
And that was ideal weather other than the hot heat.
Yeah, exactly. So we don't get any excuses. We just got to go with an understanding that, without a shadow of a doubt, running the ball needs to be priority one, and that's going to set up the success that we're looking for in the passing game. And without that, then we shoot ourselves in the foot, and then we ask and invite all of the other chaos that Buffalo could possibly muster up to come to our front door, because we took that one element. If we take that one element and push it out to the side and don't focus on it, then you're asking for all this other stuff to just show up and just throw you completely out of whack. That can't be the case. So for me, if they ran the ball 60% of the time and only threw 40, that'd be the ideal mix for me, because then I think we'd be passing the ball only when we had to, as opposed to, you know what I mean? If we can establish a ground game and get them moved up front enough to be able to keep them honest, it's going to open up the areas of the field that we want to exploit with the speed. You know, because one thing for sure, DBs don't like playing in bad weather, because it completely screws up your back pedal. It completely screws up your ability to transition with a guy, because all that guy's got to do is be able to get his first 2 steps established, and if he's going deep past you, he's gone. You got to as a DB, you got to either be you either got to sidestep and go, or if you're trying to backpedal and transition the elements, if your cleats aren't long enough, all the stuff they got to process all of that. So we have an advantage, but that advantage is not going to be available to us unless we establish Tua's ability to be able to fake the run, suck the linebackers in, and then get the ball into those key areas of the defense that we want to exploit. So 60-40, like I said, 60-40 for me. 60% of the importance needs to be on establishing some type of run game with a lot of movement and things that they haven't seen, and running the ball in areas of the offensive line that they haven't seen. You know what I mean? Hell, the best way to establish that you're there for business, run right at the A and B gaps, right? Then when they start shifting and they get their guys down inside, their DTs down, because they know 4-man line down inside. Now you can get the outside stuff open up, you know, to the edges and whatnot. Because all you gotta do is move a tight end, bring the fullback to that side too, go strong, and now you got your one-on-one, you know, your 1-on-3 matchups that you should win, because somebody's moving to the next level to get to the linebacker. And you can get your creases that you need if the wide receivers are willing to just run off their guys, or even run block. But you can't get any of that type of stuff if you don't commit to the run. So, yeah. And Buffalo has to do the same thing. They have to do the same thing in order to get Josh Allen the best levels of success. But they've proven that they can win a game without ever even trying to even run the game. So, you know, if things go bad for them, we just got to be able to hold up on the back end, you know. But again, no run game. We'll see. Yeah.
Before we get into your guys' final thoughts and predictions here for the game, Ballgame, I just wanted to ask you one simple question here. Yeah. Because this popped into my, as I was, you know, making the list of our topics for tonight, this popped into my head, and I think this is a really good question.
Okay.
If bad weather calls for a high percentage passing game, like what we've seen LA and San Fran run against us successfully in great weather the past 2 weeks, are you confident Boyer in this defense can stop it? And what adjustments do they need to make from what you've seen the last 2 weeks to stop that?
I'm not confident right now in anything Boyer got going on, but if he was a listener and he was going to take any advice from me, man, I would suggest he come out and he present to them basically a hang two buck. Right, so if you want to stick in the man coverage, look, that way you could be man coverage one down and cover 2 the next, and then force Josh Allen to throw the ball into, you know, that way you give your corners the option to ride the receiver as long as possible unless something comes to the flat, and it confuses him, and then you could take your middle linebacker, right, because he likes throwing over the middle to Knox. He likes trying to hit Knox in the the deep middle of the field sometimes as well. You could take your middle linebacker and buck drop him to that point, and you can do it from cover 2 and from cover 2 man. I'd make it all look like zone, right? And even though it's man coverage, have them match the routes, and then if they have to come, if the corner has to come off to come down and rally, then we will. But I would be looking to try to confuse Josh as much as possible, right? Because most people know when in football, too high, I'm gonna hit you with the dive. You see what I'm saying? One high, I'm gonna let it fly. You feel me? But if we don't, I'm just saying, you throw the ball against one high because typically it's either cover 1 or cover 3. If they got too high, then cover 2 is a better run defense. But at the same time, cover 2 man, you can make it look the same. Corner's going to line up inside to take away the slant real easy. Now Josh has to throw an accurate pass over the top of the corner, and at the same time in that soft area of the zone right in front of the safety. But the elements aren't going to necessarily be in anybody's favor, so that means that the difficulty of those throws is going to be much more. I'm trying to confuse him as much as possible. You see what I'm saying? And make it harder for him, and then all he's got left really with is his ability to scramble, which that's how he killed who that they played last weekend. That's how he killed them. He ain't been really putting up all these monstrous passing stats. He been killing people with his running ability, right? Yeah, but as many times we can get a hit on him, you know what I mean? We got to take those shots too. We just got to be disciplined up front. But that cover 2, you know what I'm saying, hang 2 buck for me would be the look. And then that way I can camouflage it. And then if I got to go to something a little more exotic, I can still run cover 4 too. I can make cover 4 look like cover 2. It's just the alignment in terms of having the guys lining up at 7 off. I have them walk down to 5, just like they would be. Or we can look cover 2 press at the line and then sink it. I have them sink. You know what I'm saying? Go cover 2 sink. But that would be my thing, because then I still have guys on the edges up there able to help out in the run game. You know what I'm saying? Eliminate their run game and force Josh Allen in at that point to have to make, precision throws. Not a lot of cover 3. I'd actually show him some cover 6 too. You know what I mean? But
mix it up.
Yeah. Mix it up for sure, because he has proven that he will take. He's still a young guy. He relies on that
he'll
arm
force
talent.
The football. Yeah, he'll force the football.
Yeah. So,
yeah.
But I don't trust Boyer.
Yeah, I know.
Not right now.
Your guys' final thoughts on the Bills and the Dolphins and your score predictions for the game.
I think my final thoughts is, and we've hit it the last segment, is balance. And we talked about getting back to that, having a running game. I think that helps the RPOs. It helps the offense offensively. And, make the adjustments, like you said, Reason. Sometimes if the deep stuff is not there, shorten it up, keep mixing it up. And it definitely helps as far as, instead of being 3rd and 8, and like you and Ballgame said, if we can be 3rd and 3, 3rd and 5, it creates more of a challenge for the defense coordinator to try to figure out how are you going to try to get that first down. But if it's 3rd and long, this and that, the defense peels his ears back, and it's just a lot of times a lot harder to convert, especially with the conditions that we're expecting on Saturday. So night game, tough game, but I'm believing that we can get that done. I think it's going to be a tough game, only because, to me, in the Bills' mind, they felt that they should have won the first game against us. And with it being the type of rivalry that I already know it is, they're going to be looking to try to make a statement to say, hey, yeah, y'all got lucky the first time, but y'all in our house, and we're going to try to do it. But this will be a great game for the Dolphins to kind of get back to doing what they're doing and go up there and shock them and surprise them and leave them with their mouth hung open. So I'm going to believe that McDaniel staff gets it done. And I'm going to go, I think it's going to be a close game. I think it's going to be a lower scoring game. I'm going to go 2017 Dolphins.
What do you got, Ballgame?
So for me, I think I agree with Richmond in regards to balance, but I also agree that the Dolphins still need to be able to prove to this team and to themselves that they're tougher, that they're more, that they're more better equipped, and that they are the better team. So they got to go out right out the gate and punch them in the face and be willing to punch them all night. And no matter what that looks like, that running game has to be a part of that sledgehammer. The base of that sledgehammer that they punching them in the face with has to be the run game. And like I said earlier on, a team's devotion to the run game feeds into your toughness, right? And a lot of teams, I like a lot of teams around the league believe that we're just a finesse team, but in order to get the true respect that we want and deserve from those squads, you got to be willing to go out there and prove it to them that you're willing to commit to the tough part of the game, which is going to be to run this ball and those elements. And if we commit to that, I think overall that'll open up our ability to be able to unleash this elite passing attack against them. And that in itself will be enough to be able to pull out this victory. However, I don't think Buffalo, once they figure out they won't be able to run the ball, they'll leave it and they'll rely on Josh. I'd rather have the balance of the run and the pass on our side than have to rely on just, you know what I'm saying, Tua throwing the ball all game to secure us the victory. So for me, it just comes down to them committing to this run game. And I also have it very close, but I'm going to say 17-14 Dolphins.
So in the 4 coldest games of Tua Tagovailoa's career, at the Broncos in 2020, we lost 20-13. He was 11 of 20 for 83 yards and a touchdown. In 2020 at the Bills, when you're in, we lost 56-26. He was 35 of 58 for 351 yards, a touchdown, and 3 picks. In 2021 at the Bills, he was 20. We lost 24-21. He was 21 of 39, 205 yards and interception. And then at the Titans, we lost 34-3. He was 18 of 38, 205, and an interception. Honestly, with how everyone's picking and betting against us, it wouldn't be surprised me if this was if we all of a sudden just shocked the world. Like I think I do think there's actually a good chance. You know, I'm not afraid of this team. We gave them 93 snaps in ideal weather and they couldn't get it done. They couldn't score more than 20 points. What I expect now, they're going to blow us out in the snow. I think everything would need to go wrong for us to get blown out in the snow, to be quite frank with you. And at the end of the day, as long as Jeff Wilson's healthy, I like our running back room better than their room, and they've invested a lot more in their room than we have. So
what's up with Rowe?
Did not participate today.
Shit.
Did not participate. Him, Jeff Wilson, River Craycraft, Elijah Campbell, and Terron Armstead did not participate today. But Armstead was McDaniel said he expects Armstead and Wilson to go.
Okay.
Yeah, so we'll see. All right, gentlemen, guys, I will be back on Friday night for a further in-depth look at this Week 15 matchup between the Dolphins and the Bills. Until next time, everyone, smash that like button, subscribe if you're new. I appreciate everyone for coming through. Stay happy, healthy, safe, and blessed, and we will see you next time right here back at the finish line. Fins up, baby.
Fins up.